My name is Briana Holloway, and the day my family chose my abuser over me started with sunlight spilling across a stack of travel brochures on my kitchen table. 4 months. My parents had planned what they called a healing family vacation to Costa Rica. Beachfront suites, private tours, luxury dinners. It was supposed to bring everyone closer together. What they didn't tell anyone was that I had quietly paid for every part of it. I never wanted praise. I only wanted one peaceful memory after years of pain. Then my sister called. She sounded cheerful as if she were sharing good news. "We're bringing your ex-husband instead," she said. "Mauricio will take your place." I couldn't speak for a moment. Mauricio wasn't just my ex. He was the man who had screamed at me until I was terrified to speak, slammed doors inches from my face, and left bruises I became an expert at hiding. Escaping him had taken years of courage. Now my own family was inviting him back into my life. "I won't be there if he's coming," I said as calmly as I could. Instead of understanding, my parents dismissed me. "Stop being dramatic. People change. Family forgives. Your sister deserves to be happy." When I refused to go, they simply replaced me with him. That night, I sat alone staring at the travel confirmations. Every reservation, every flight, every hotel suite, every excursion, and even the private chef had one thing in common. They were all booked under my name. My hands shook for a moment before becoming perfectly still. If they wanted to give my seat to my abuser, they were free to do it. They just wouldn't be taking my money with them. I opened my laptop. One click canceled the flights. Within minutes, cancellation emails began filling my inbox. Somewhere, the vacation my family had been counting on was quietly falling apart before they even knew it. The next morning, dozens of confirmation emails covered my screen. Each cancellation felt like another piece of control returning to me. My coffee sat untouched when my phone rang. It was my mother. "What did you do?" she demanded. "I canceled the trip I paid for," I answered. A long silence followed. Then she snapped, "You're being cruel." They had invited the man who abused me and expected me to pay for his vacation. My sister called next. At first she laughed, thinking I was bluffing. When she realized I wasn't, panic replaced her confidence. "You can't do this." I already did. The family group chat exploded with messages. Some tried to guilt me. Others blamed me, threatened me, or begged me to change my mind. Not one person apologized for choosing Mauricio over me. That afternoon my father appeared at my front door without warning. He stood there with folded arms. "You're overreacting," he said. "Mauricio has changed." I looked him in the eyes and realized something inside me had finally gone quiet. I didn't argue. I simply closed the door. Then I opened my laptop again. Hotel reservations canceled. Private tours canceled. The private chef canceled. Every contract carried my name, so every cancellation required only my approval. For the first time since my divorce, I didn't feel powerless. I felt free. My family thought this was a fight over a vacation. They didn't understand it was about something much bigger. It was about choosing myself after years of being told my pain didn't matter. That evening, I sat on the floor surrounded by old boxes from my marriage. Photographs, letters, divorce papers, and therapy notes reminded me how hard I had fought to rebuild my life. The phone wouldn't stop buzzing. My sister called again. When I answered, she was crying. "You're ruining everything," she said. Mom hasn't stopped shaking. I looked toward the hallway where I used to hide whenever Mauricio came home angry. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you replaced me with my abuser." She fell silent. Not because she understood. Because she never expected me to stand up for myself. A little later my mother called. Her voice had lost its anger. "Briana, please. People are starting to ask why the trip was canceled." "Good," I replied quietly. After hanging up, I canceled the remaining reservations. The travel insurance. The airport transportation. The final resort deposit. Each confirmation email felt like another chain breaking. Just after midnight, a text from my sister appeared on my screen. He already bought his ticket. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I smiled. Because a plane ticket meant nothing when there was no vacation left to take. I forwarded my sister one final email. It showed every reservation, every contract, and every payment, all under my name. Her typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. She had nothing to say. In that silence, I knew the next knock on my door wouldn't be friendly. The next morning my doorbell rang before sunrise. My parents stood on my porch. My mother looked pale, my father wore his usual stern expression, and my sister waited nervously in her car at the end of the driveway. I invited them inside. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen as they immediately began talking over one another. Please fix this. You've made your point. Let's be reasonable. I didn't argue. Instead, I placed a thick folder on the table. Inside were every receipt, invoice, booking confirmation, and signed contract. Each one carried my name. My mother's hands trembled as she turned the pages. My father grew quieter with every document he read. You told everyone you paid for this trip, I said softly. Neither of them answered. Just then my phone buzzed. Final excursion, cancelled. My mother looked at the screen and winced. I'm not doing this out of anger, I said. I'm doing it because I'm done pretending my safety doesn't matter. At that moment my sister walked inside. Her eyes were swollen from crying. You're tearing this family apart, she whispered. I looked directly at her. No. You did that when you chose my abuser over me. Silence filled the room. Finally my father asked quietly, What do you want? I looked at the empty chair where I should have been sitting on that vacation. I want my place in this family back. Then I slid one final email across the table. Refund initiated. The color drained from their faces. The vacation was gone. More importantly, so was my silence. No one moved. My mother stared at the paperwork as if it were evidence in a courtroom. My father rubbed his forehead, unable to meet my eyes. My sister stood near the doorway, neither fully inside nor fully outside, exactly where she had kept me emotionally for years. Another notification appeared on my phone. Another refund. Another cancellation. Please stop, my mother whispered. Instead of responding, I handed her my divorce file. This time she actually read it. Inside were copies of police reports, court records, restraining orders, and therapy notes. The evidence I had carried alone for years. My sister's voice cracked. I never knew it was this bad. You never asked. The room fell silent again. Then my father spoke words I never expected to hear. We believed him. The confession landed harder than any apology. My mother quietly cried. I felt no satisfaction. Only relief that the truth was finally impossible to ignore. This was never about a vacation, I said. It was about whether I could feel safe with my own family. Outside, a car passed down the street. Inside, my parents finally looked smaller than the pride they had hidden behind for years. After several long minutes, my sister suddenly reached for her phone. I'll call Mauricio right now, she said. I'll tell him he's not coming. We can fix this. I gently stopped her. No. She froze. So, what do you want? She asked. This isn't about removing him now that there are consequences, I replied. My safety isn't something you protect only after I fight for it. My phone buzzed again with another refund notification. No one spoke. Finally, my father asked, What do you need from us? I answered without hesitation. I need you to believe me the first time. Not after years of excuses. Not after proof. Not after I have to destroy something just to be heard. The room stayed quiet. Then I placed one final document on the table. It wasn't a travel contract. It was a list of boundaries. No contact with Mauricio. No inviting him into family events. No pressuring me to forgive. No hiding important decisions from me. Respect my choices. Believe me when I say I'm unsafe. If those boundaries couldn't be respected, neither could our relationship. My mother picked up the paper with shaking hands. One by one they read every line. Then without arguing they signed it. My mother's signature was unsteady. My father's was slow and deliberate. My sister hesitated the longest. When she finally signed, she looked less relieved than humbled. That evening I sat alone watching rain slide down my windows. For the first time in years my chest didn't feel tight. Every refund confirmation that arrived wasn't just money returning. It was another reminder that I finally had control over my own life. The following morning my parents came back. This time they weren't angry. They carried coffee from my favorite cafe and warm bread from the bakery I loved. More importantly, they brought an apology with no excuses attached. They admitted they had failed me. They admitted they should have believed me. They admitted they had chosen comfort over their daughter. My sister didn't come. Instead, she sent one simple message. I'm ashamed. I need time to become better. Asterisk asterisk. I didn't reply. Some things deserve silence before forgiveness. A few days later I booked a trip for myself. Nothing luxurious. Just a quiet mountain town where I could breathe without fear. At the airport I stood alone with a small suitcase and a peaceful heart. As I waited to board, my mother sent a message. We love you. We're trying. Asterisk asterisk. This time I believed her. Not because everything had been repaired, but because everything had finally changed. As the plane lifted into the sky, I looked down at the city growing smaller beneath me. For years I believed protecting myself meant losing my family. Instead, standing up for myself had finally taught them how to love me. A month later we gathered again. Not for an expensive vacation. Not for appearances. Just for dinner at my parents' home. There were no glossy travel brochures or forced smiles. Only honest conversation. Mauricio was gone from all of our lives. No one defended him anymore. No one asked me to forgive him. My parents apologized once more, this time without expecting forgiveness in return. My sister arrived carrying a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. 3 pages long. She admitted every moment she had ignored my pain, every excuse she had made, and every promise she intended to keep moving forward. I didn't forgive her immediately. Instead, I thanked her for finally telling the truth. That was enough for one day. Later that night I unpacked the small suitcase from my mountain trip. Among the souvenirs was my favorite photograph. I stood on a quiet cliff, wind in my hair, smiling without fear. I pinned the picture to my refrigerator. It wasn't a reminder of where I had traveled. It was proof of who I had become. My phone buzzed once more. A message from my mother. We're still learning. Thank you for not giving up on us. Asterisk asterisk. I smiled, set my phone down and looked at the photo instead. The greatest victory wasn't canceling a vacation. It wasn't getting refunds. It wasn't making my family apologize. The real victory was finally choosing myself. I no longer feared losing my family because I had stopped losing myself. Guilt had been replaced with healthy boundaries. Fear had been replaced with confidence. Silence had been replaced with truth. And love at last looked like respect. That evening, rain tapped softly against the windows as I made myself a cup of tea. The house was quiet. My heart was quiet. For the first time in years I wasn't surviving. I was finally living.